FIFA World Cup has given us some of the greatest matches in football history. Last-minute winners, impossible comebacks, and moments that billions of people still remember decades later. But one World Cup match is remembered for the exact opposite reason. Not because it was exciting, not because it was dramatic, but because for more than 80 minutes, two of the biggest teams in world football appeared to stop playing altogether. Thousands of fans watched in disbelief. The stadium echoed with boos. Commentators struggled to describe what they were seeing. And when the final whistle blew, football would never be the same again. This wasn't just the worst World Cup match ever played. It became known as the Disgrace of Gijón, a game so shameful that FIFA was forced to change the World Cup forever. But to understand how this happened, we have to go back to Spain, the summer of 1982. Back in 1982, the World Cup looked very different from the one we know today. It was the first tournament to feature 24 teams instead of 16. More countries, more matches, and more excitement. But hidden inside the tournament's new format was a flaw that almost nobody noticed. Back then, the final matches in each group were not played at the same time. Instead, one team would play first, leaving the other teams knowing exactly what result they needed before they even stepped onto the pitch. At first, it didn't seem like a problem. In fact, most people never gave it a second thought. Then came Group 2, a group that looked completely ordinary. West Germany, Austria, Chile, and Algeria. On paper, there was an obvious favorite, West Germany. A football giant, former world champions, a team expected to cruise into the next round without much trouble. Algeria were expected to do the exact opposite. But football has a habit of ignoring expectations. In one of the biggest upsets the World Cup had ever seen, Algeria shocked the world by defeating West Germany. The result sent shockwaves through international football. Suddenly, everything had changed, and without realizing it, the tournament had begun marching toward one of the darkest moments in World Cup history. After their shocking victory over West Germany, Algeria went on to beat Chile, but they also lost to Austria. That meant Algeria had finished all 3 of their group matches. Now, all they could do was wait. West Germany still had one match left to play, against Austria. Before kickoff, the standings told a very dangerous story. Germany needed to win, Austria wanted to avoid a heavy defeat, and Algeria could do absolutely nothing. They could only watch. Then, journalists began doing the math. If West Germany won by just 1 or 2 goals, both Germany and Austria would qualify for the next round. Algeria would be eliminated. It was the perfect result for both teams. Of course, nobody expected professional footballers to play for a draw. This was the FIFA World Cup, the biggest stage in football. Millions of people were watching. Surely, both teams would compete until the final whistle. At least, that's what everyone believed. They were about to find out just how wrong they were. June 25th, 1982, El Molinón Stadium, Gijón, Spain. More than 40,000 fans packed into the stadium. Millions more watched around the world. Nobody knew they were about to witness one of football's greatest scandals. The match kicked off. At first, everything looked completely normal. West Germany attacked, Austria defended, the crowd settled in, expecting a tense battle for a place in the next round. Then, just 10 minutes into the game, West Germany scored. Plenty of time for Austria to fight back, or for Germany to score again. But then, something strange began to happen. Germany stopped attacking. Austria stopped pressing. The urgency simply disappeared. Minute after minute, players passed the ball sideways, then backwards. Defenders stood with no pressure. Midfielders jogged instead of sprinting. Neither team looked interested in creating another chance. The match had become little more than a training session, except this wasn't training. This was the FIFA World Cup. At first, the fans were confused. Then, they became furious. Boos echoed around the stadium. Whistles rang out from every corner. Supporters waved banknotes in the air, accusing both teams of fixing the result. Some fans even chanted, "Out! Out! Out!" Everyone inside the stadium knew what was happening. Everyone except the players, who simply kept passing the ball. As the minutes ticked away, the atmosphere inside the stadium turned toxic. Every misplaced pass was greeted with louder boos. Every backward pass brought even more whistles. The fans hadn't come to watch two teams protect a scoreline. They had come to watch a World Cup match. Instead, they were watching football's biggest stage being turned into a farce. The commentators could hardly believe what they were seeing. Around the world, broadcasters openly criticized both teams. Some called it embarrassing, others called it disgraceful. One commentator even apologized to viewers for the match they were watching. That almost never happens, but this was no ordinary football match. When the referee finally blew the final whistle, the score remained West Germany 1, Austria 0. It was the perfect result. Germany advanced, Austria advanced, and Algeria, despite winning 2 of their 3 matches, were eliminated from the World Cup. The reaction was immediate. Newspapers across Europe tore into both teams. Fans demanded answers. Football writers called it one of the darkest days in World Cup history. And before long, the match had a new name: the Disgrace of Gijón, a name that has followed both teams for more than 40 years. But perhaps the most remarkable part of this story didn't happen on the pitch. It happened afterward. Because FIFA knew if something like this could happen once, it could happen again. And they were determined to make sure it never did. The solution was surprisingly simple. After the 1982 World Cup, FIFA introduced a new rule. From that point on, the final matches in every World Cup group would kick off at exactly the same time. That meant no team could know the result they needed before stepping onto the pitch. The loophole had finally been closed. Since then, millions of fans have watched dramatic final match days, last-minute goals, shock eliminations, and unforgettable moments. But few people realize those moments exist because of one match played more than 40 years ago. A match that showed exactly what could happen when competition disappears. Today, the Disgrace of Gijón is remembered as more than just a boring football match. It became a warning, a reminder that the World Cup isn't just about winning, it's about competing. Because the moment players stop trying to win, the game itself begins to lose its meaning. In the end, no trophies were lifted that day, no records were broken, no legendary goals were scored. Yet somehow, one of the most unforgettable matches in World Cup history was remembered for almost nothing happening at all. And that's exactly why it changed football forever.